Hey there y'all, this is Lauren from Mama's Learning Corner. I'm so thrilled to be back with y'all here on YouTube. I had to take a couple of weeks off to take care of some family commitments, but I'm thrilled to be back with y'all this week. Y'all know I love YouTube, I'm a big fan. So I'm thrilled that you're back with me. Today, I'm talking about unit studies. I don't know if you've noticed at Mama's Learning Corner over the past couple of days, but I've posted a lot of resources about how I do very simple unit studies with my children. You can read details there, but suffice it to say, I made unit studies so hard, it was just ridiculous in those early years. The early years of me homeschooling. I just didn't have a good grasp of how to do something really simple with my children. I didn't want big, long, drawn-out unit studies, 3 and 4 weeks. I wanted just like a really simple, like 3 to 5 to 10-day unit study. So through a lot of trial and error, mostly mistakes and errors, I finally figured out this really simple plan for us for unit studies. So I want to share that with y'all today. And I want to give you a very practical example. In fact, I'm going to be sharing the unit study that we're going to do for Thanksgiving. So you can see step by step what our Thanksgiving unit study is going to look like. Let me say this first though. We use Tapestry of Grace for our history in our homeschool. And it does a marvelous job of really tackling that colonial era time. So my kids have already gone through a really in-depth study of that 2 years ago, maybe. Actually 3 years ago, because we're on year 1 again this year. But each Thanksgiving we still do a little mini unit study. I think it's important that they know the history of our country, and so this is a great way to study it. So my study wouldn't be quite. My study would be more in depth if we weren't doing Tapestry of Grace, and I know that we're going to cycle back through that time period again. So you're going to be able to download this very simple unit study planner at Mama's Learning Corner, and it really just goes step by step. All you do is complete the pages and your unit study is completely done. You don't have to think, gosh, how many books are we supposed to read? How many activities am I supposed to do? Oh, I just don't know. Go through the planner, go through my little step-by-steps, and it will be a really easy way to plan a good, rich unit study for your children. Also, I want to make it clear that this style of unit study is perfect for preschool through about 2nd grade or so, maybe 3rd grade. But I would not use this with my 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th grade children. They just need something a little bit more in depth. The books need to be on an older level for them. There will be more writing for my children than what I'm presenting in this unit study. But again, this is perfect for those younger ages. The goal of those younger ages are just to provide information and to show them a love of learning. It's not for mastery by any means. So I don't drill my kids on spelling words or anything like that. We just talk about them. And when we do a type of evaluation, which I'll get to, and that's it. It's really just exposure at this point. And this simple unit study plan is a perfect way to expose them. So let's get started. If you haven't read my post on how to create a very simple unit study, it's just 3 steps. I would encourage you to stop this video, go read that post, and then come right back. And this video will make a lot more sense to you. I will make sure I leave that link in the comment section at the bottom of this video. But the first thing you want to do after you determine your topic is figure out the length of time you want to study this particular topic. Is it just going to be a quickie little unit study, just 2 or 3 days? Is it going to last a little bit longer, 5, 7, 10 days? But I would encourage you, again, if you've got small children, which is what this is intended for, I would not make a unit study longer than 2 weeks. 2 weeks at the maximum. You just need to move on to something fresh. Kids have short attention spans, so even if you do just a little bit every day, which is my suggestion, then I would cap it at about 2 weeks. For our history of Thanksgiving study that we're going to do, we are going to run about 4 to 5 days. So that's a good school week for us. The history of Thanksgiving is going to be the next study that we're going to do, and I wanted to focus primarily on the history of Thanksgiving. The Mayflower, what it was like for the Pilgrims that first year they were in America, what the actual Thanksgiving feast looked like for them with the Native Americans. So I'm focusing on that portion of Thanksgiving. And you'll see that my activities and books are going to reflect that. So I'm still using my little planner here, which you can download for free at Mama's Learning Corner. I flipped the page, and the very first thing that you need to determine when you're doing a unit study is what your book list is going to look like. That is definitely the first thing that you choose. I'm a fan of living books. I love them. They provide such a rich learning environment for my children. I can't even speak highly enough about them. Love them. It's important to me for us to have a home library with access to books all around them. So our book budget is large. Well, it's not large, but it's a larger portion of our homeschool budget. Let me say it that way. Most of our homeschool money goes to books. So task number 1 is to choose the book list. Now, if you are doing a really small unit study, 2 to 3 books is probably plenty. You know, that's probably going to cover you for a 2 or 3 day unit study. Like I said, we're going to do a 4 to 5 day unit study for this Thanksgiving, history of Thanksgiving. But I have a lot of books, and so we'll probably just read the majority of those days. If you are not familiar with Anne McGovern, she writes lots of historical type of works, and this one is If You Sailed on the Mayflower in 1620. I love it. It's written in like a question and answer style. My children love that. And there's just a different approach to learning about history. And we're also going to use this one by her, If You Lived in Colonial Times. And I had to pick and choose a little bit through this. I really just wanted exposure to what colonial times look like. So not all of the pages, but a majority of the content will apply to the Pilgrims. We are also using If You Were at the First Thanksgiving. Excellent book. It's also written in that question and answer style that my kids really think is cool. We're also reading Three Young Pilgrims by Cheryl Harness. We love Cheryl Harness. I always look for her as an author. Her illustrations are spectacular. The text is always just excellent, just right on their level. Love her. So I always look for Cheryl Harness when you're doing historical type of unit study. And then there's A Voyage of the Mayflower book that I'm going to pull, and I have one other, I have a read aloud, potential read aloud. This is Colonial Living, which is a little bit tedious. It's definitely not a book that I would just hand over to my child and say, here you go. Definitely not that type of book, but it has wonderful little tidbits in it, but you kind of have to search and pull them out. So I'll make a list of what I want us to cover. But it has black and white illustrations, and some of those are just fantastic, about, how they create a Spitfire or, something along those lines. So in terms of a visual image of what some of the colonial practices look like, this is a great book for that. So that's my book list. It's pretty simple. We'll just read 1, maybe 2 a day, and that's it for the book list. I also have, one of my other books is Colonial Kids by, I think it's Laurie Carlson. Yeah, Laurie Carlson. And she writes these thematic activity books. So, there's one for like ancient civilizations, and then there's one for colonial kids. There's one for the medieval period. But these are wonderful idea starters for activities. And so speaking of activities, that's what is next on my to-do list. So I choose my living books first for my unit study, and the next thing I do is I choose one hands-on activity. I haven't exactly narrowed down what we're going to do from Colonial Kids. They have lots of games in the back, so we might go through some of those. They also have, one of the ideas is to learn how to weave, so we might do that. That was, really popular in colonial times. We also, if I feel ambitious and can find the right materials, I think we could possibly make dipped wax candles. That would be really cool. We've never done anything like that, but that would be a big project. And so if we choose to do something that involved, then I'll only choose one hands-on activity. Since this is a 4 to 5 day unit study, I would typically choose 2, but I really have to research that candle situation and see how tough that's going to be. But the activities in this book go from really small type of doable things in 10 to 15, 30 minutes to a couple of day-long projects, like making colonial type clothes, or making little corn husk dolls, or something along those lines. So I feel certain that I'm going to choose my activity from Colonial Kids. I just haven't exactly narrowed it down yet. So choose living books, then choose a hands-on activity, and then the last thing is to choose some type of evaluation for your children. So for my early kindergartner, I'm not going to do any type of evaluation for her. I mean, that's just not anything that I would ever do for her. I mean, I'll ask her questions and she'll be able to narrate back to me, but in terms of physical writing, like, she's just not even close to that. I do have a couple of Thanksgiving match games that I'm going to play with her, and I have a whole host of Thanksgiving color by number for her, so she'll be working through those. And as I flip over my planner, my next page are printables that I'm going to use, evaluation tools for my children. So my early kindergartner will do Thanksgiving match game, color by number, Thanksgiving type things. I also have some Thanksgiving placemats she'll probably work on. Now my first grader is going to work through a Thanksgiving word wall packet. And I just created this. She loved the fall one, so I decided to make a Thanksgiving word wall for her. So the premise is that we have very limited space in our schoolroom, wall space in our schoolroom. And so there's not a place to put, like a traditional word wall where you have specific words related to the unit that you're working on. So I had the bright idea a few years ago to put it inside of a file folder, that you can just slide inside of your desk. So this particular one has a cover page. It has a little tab, so you can easily find it. And then here are the words that are related to Thanksgiving. And then inside of the file folder packet, there's, all of the activities revolve around these Thanksgiving themed words. And many of them have to do with the history of Thanksgiving, but some of them do not. Things like the words family or feast or holiday, America. Some of those aren't necessarily history of Thanksgiving type words. So then there's all these activities, beginning letters, writing sentences, nouns and adjectives related to these particular words. So she'll work on that the whole week. It's 10 printable pages, and then they just fit inside of the file folder. She thinks it's the best thing ever. So I'm thrilled she loves it. So she is going to work on that. Now my 8-year-old, who is in the 3rd grade, is going to work on a Thanksgiving worksheet packet that I have for her. And these are all related to the history of Thanksgiving. It's not cutesy, like color by number type things. Even though, she would really enjoy that, but my goal for her is to work on this packet. So there's reading comprehension, where she reads the portion at the top, and she'll be able to answer the questions at the bottom. There's also some writing prompts where she'll be able to write a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph, fill in the blank, definitions. She matches the word to the definition. There's a word search, which she loves a word search. And there's also some map work. She's really getting interested in map work, which I love. I like geography too, so I'm glad she's interested as well. And then there's a portion on the Mayflower Compact, some more map work, some addition, some reading comprehension about the Peace Treaty, about Squanto and how he taught them to plant corn. So this is an excellent packet for her. She is going to enjoy getting that together. And so that'll be her evaluation type piece. Now, you don't have to use either of these things. You can choose to find a lap book online, or if your child loves notebooking, go to notebookingpages.com and download whatever their colonial pages are. So there's just tons of resources. And if your child is not ready for writing yet, really evaluate whether you need to have any type of writing evaluation. Narration back and forth. You ask questions and they answer. That may be enough for whatever stage your child is. Another thing that you could do, if you choose to do a lap book or notebooking pages, if your child can formulate the thoughts that he wants to say, but he just can't physically write them on the paper, like if the physical act of writing is a hindrance to him, just let him tell those to you and you be his scribe. We did that for a lot of years with my oldest son, Davis. He was able to get the answers every time, but that connection between him saying the answers and his hand physically writing them, he just wasn't there yet. So he just needed some extra time. So I was his scribe for a long time. But that's a wonderful way to evaluate work. So if you're looking for a really simple unit study, choose the books, choose one hands-on activity, and then choose only one way to evaluate them. You don't want to do lap booking and notebooking pages and this worksheet packet. You don't want to do all those things because there's just no need, unless your child just loves that type of work and desires to do even more. That's a different story. But in terms of pushing that on them, just choose one. So that's a very simple unit study. Not hard to plan and pretty easy to implement. However, if you're talking about a topic with your child that they just absolutely adore and can't get enough of, like, you probably want to add a few other things, because the goal, of course, is to just satisfy that love of learning and encourage it. So I wrote a second post about how to plan a simple unit study with some more ideas. And you'll also find a place to record and plan those ideas in the planner that you can download at Mama's Learning Corner. So the next thing I would add is a science activity. Now, I will be the first to tell you that I am not so hot with being consistent with science. I wish I was, but I'm not. If anything falls by the wayside, it sadly is science. So when I do a unit study, I try my very best to make sure there's a science activity included. And I decided that for this year, with the history of Thanksgiving, remember that's my example, is that we're gonna make homemade butter, which I think is really cool. So I had to search online for the chemistry and the science behind that, and I finally found a great site. I'll make sure I link to it at the bottom, but the site is cookingforengineers.com. And so it gives all the science behind why butter turns into butter when you use just plain whipping cream, like what the science is behind that. It's totally fascinating. So we are going to do that, and then we're going to use that butter at our Thanksgiving dinner, which they will think is really neat, and honestly I think it's really neat too. So I'm pretty excited about that. So the next thing you can do is add a science activity. Where are you going to find those? Pinterest is always my go-to. I use Pinterest as a search engine more than I do Google. Especially with Pinterest News Smart Feed, they really have honed in on the search feature, and it is phenomenal. You can find an activity for any topic. So go to Pinterest first, you'll love it. Once you choose a science activity, if you think that you'd still like a little bit more to add onto your unit study, you can choose a set of spelling and vocabulary words you'd like your child to really know. You can use those as your spelling list for the week if you so choose, if you don't have a formal spelling curriculum. Or you can just make sure that you talk about exactly what those words mean each day. So one of our words for our history of Thanksgiving is going to be hardtack. You know, that hard bread that they ate that lasted forever, you know, in their luggage and their cargo. So that's one of our words. We're going to talk about hardtack and probably make some. So at dinner, you know, we're going to talk about one word from that list each week. One night it'll be hardtack. One night it'll be cargo. One night it'll be Native Americans. And so each child will be able to tell their dad exactly what it is that they know about that. And they love, you know how kids are, they love to tell you everything they know about a specific topic. So that's one way we implement vocabulary in our home. There's also a vocabulary portion in my 8-year-old's themed worksheet packet. So she'll be able to work on vocabulary there. I included a list where you can just quickly write down 5, 10, 15 words, whatever you think is appropriate for your child. And it may just be that you have 3 words, you know, depending upon the age of your child. And there's all types of ways that you can implement spelling and vocabulary. But the best way is just by reading living books and reading those words in context. And so really you can kind of already check that off your list, because that was the very first thing you did on your unit study, was plan the books. If you're still looking for one more resource, I turn to video resources. I have 3 big places that I choose from. I choose from YouTube, I choose from Netflix, And my new favorite love is Discovery Education Streaming Plus. I'll make sure that link's in the comments. I love YouTube to find topics for myself, but I will admit to you that in the last month, I have become so disgruntled with the comments in YouTube. My children, there are things in those comments my children cannot see. Even on like really harmless educational videos, the comments are not monitored. And those are things that my children cannot see. So I've searched and searched for an alternative, and I happened upon Discovery Education Streaming Plus. Love it. I cannot say enough good things about it. In fact, my next video is probably going to be about that and showing you how we implement that in our home. It is safe and the topics are abundant, so I can't wait to show you that. Within Discovery Streaming, you can create what's called a classroom and drag and drop videos in there. And so what I will do is I will choose between 5 and 10 videos, put those in the classroom folder, and my son and my girls will watch those together. Videos are anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 or 15 or 30 minutes. So, and they're on a variety of topics. But of course, I'm going to choose all of mine to be History of Thanksgiving, since that's the focus of our topic. Lastly, if you're still looking for something to make your unit study really meaty, you can always choose a field trip. I searched for field trip options for us for the History of Thanksgiving, and I really just couldn't find anything in our area. I'm not so good with field trips. Like, they just kind of fall off my radar and I forget to look for them. So I'm so glad I have my planning packet, because it has a field trip page that reminds me to look for field trips. I'm not one of those mothers that my mind immediately goes to that. I wish I was. But with my little planning packet, it reminds me, oh, is there a field trip that we could take that would, help make this topic, come even more to life than it already has. So make sure you stop by Mama's and download a planning packet. It will help encourage some of those ideas to start flowing about what your unit studies can look like. So here's just a quick recap. A simple unit study really only has 3 things. It has living books that you choose. It has 1 hands-on activity. You can do more if you want, but 1 is the goal. And then the 3rd piece is some type of evaluation, whether it's just narrating back and forth, or a lap book, or notebooking pages, or a worksheet packet. So really those are the 3 elements to a very simple unit study. If you want to add other things, you can add a science activity, you can add spelling and vocabulary words, you can add video, and you can add a field trip. And of course, the sky is totally the limit with what you can add to your unit study. But the reason I tend to keep it within those categories is because I find so many wonderful things online, and then I want to implement them all. And so this is a way for me to just kind of pick and choose just a few and help me narrow down my options. So I hope it's helpful to you too. If you have any questions about unit studies, I'm always happy to, I can talk unit studies all day. So I'm always happy to answer them. So please leave them in the comments here on YouTube. Or you can email me. It's mama, M-A-M-A, at mamaslearningcorner.com. I'd love it if you click the red subscribe button so you can subscribe to me here on YouTube. You'll get a notification every time I publish a new video, which is usually every week. And I'm thrilled that you're here. Please stop by and see me at Mama's Learning Corner. You'll be able to find all of the resources that I've mentioned today, and I can't wait to see you there.